Hi, in this video I'm going to teach you how to create your own augmented reality app. So this is where you can use your phone or tablet device to look at the world around you, and when a certain object is recognised you can overlay an image or a video onto the surface of that object within the app. So for example, if you had a playing card like this is the Queen of Spades, when you view it in the augmented reality app you might overlay a different playing card on it instead. Or, for example, you might have a photograph in a frame here, but when viewed through an augmented reality app, what you actually have is a moving video instead. Now, one of the difficulties of me trying to demonstrate an augmented reality app like this is that it's hard for me to demonstrate the difference between what's happening in real life and what's being overlaid in the app on the camera screen, because you're already watching this on a screen anyway. So I'm going to try and show you that first sequence again, but this time I'm going to show you it on my mobile phone screen, which is running the app there. So if I show you the card here, so the card I'm holding is the Queen of Spades, and hopefully you can see that in the main image there. But on the mobile phone screen in real time, what you can see is it's being changed into the King of Diamonds instead. And I can rotate this card, I can flip it up and down, and I can move it around, and it will stay image tracked in that screen there. So just in case you're in any doubt as to actually what you were seeing in that first sequence there, that was all just showing the AR screen. So I think that's enough of the demonstration. Let me get on and show you how you can create this yourself. So the main piece of software we're going to be using is something called Unity, which is a game development engine which is used for making lots of different games. So you can download it online from unity3d.com. If you just click the Get Unity button, there's a couple of different choices here as to different license levels, but assuming you're using it as an individual and your income is under, I think, $100,000 a year, you can download the personal version, which is what I'm doing here. And when you've installed that downloader and you load it, you'll get kind of a wizard like this. So the download assistant, go on to next. And you just have to agree to the terms of service first of all. And then you'll get the choice of which target platforms you'd like to develop for. Unity supports lots of different platforms. I'm going to be using the Android build support, but you'd also compile for Apple products and Windows and Mac and Linux and lots of other things. But the main thing you want to include is this one here that says Vuforia augmented reality support. In addition to whatever platform you want. Vuforia is built into Unity, but you do have to select to install it. Okay, so when you first load Unity, this will be the screen you'll get, which will prompt you to create some settings for a new project. So we're simply going to call this demo AR demo. I'm going to leave all the other settings the same, and then just create the project. And then when you find the workplace for your new project, it will look like this initially. Now there's quite a lot going on here, and I'm not going to be able to explain all of the functions of all the different windows in Unity. So I'm just going to concentrate on describing the steps that you need to take to actually create this project. If you want to know more about generally how to use Unity, there's lots of good online documentation that you can find anyway. So the first thing we're going to do is to create a new AR camera. So you go to the game object menu, Vuforia, and then AR camera. So this is going to be the sort of the viewpoint through which we see all of the assets in the game. And you'll get a prompt here that says import Vuforia. Vuforia requires some assets to be imported. Would you like to do that now? Yes, we'll import those, and that will set up all of the prerequisites needed to run the AR app in our project. Okay, so here you can see down the bottom in this project window, we've got some new folders being created, and those are the sort of the Vuforia assets that are needed. Now that we've got an AR camera in our project, we don't need the main camera that was there by default. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually just get rid of that So right click on that camera and click delete. Okay, so we've got an AR camera, and the next thing we need to do is something called add an image target, which is going to be the image that is going to be recognised in the real world and have some AR content superimposed on it. So again, we'll go to the game object menu, then to view for, and this time to image. And this has created the default image target, which is this kind of astronaut card here, which is one of the samples that comes with View4. And you can see over here in the inspector pane, this says it's come from the predefined database called View4 Mars images. Well, what we're going to want to do is to add our own target instead. So click on the Add Target button. And that'll take you to the View4 web page. Now, you don't actually need to use the web online while you're using the application. But to set up the image targets, it's kind of done via an online service, so that's why it's gone to the View4 page here. So I'm going to log in first of all. If you haven't used it before, you'll have to create a developer account, but it's free to do so. So there's no particular worries. So I'm going to go to the develop menu, and the first thing you'll need to do is to get a key for your application. Get development key. If you're just in development and testing your application, you can just get a development key. If you move into production, you might need to get a production license instead. But to start with, at least, I'm going to use a free development key here, which will be good for 1,000 recognitions each month, I think it is. So we'll just call it AR demo again, exactly as we did before. Check the conditions and click confirm, and then you'll be issued your new license key, which will be quite a long kind of hexadecimal, well, not even hex key actually, sort of random alphanumeric key like here, and you need to copy that back into Unity. So if you select that whole thing there and copy it, and then come back into your Unity application and click on your AR camera and then open View4 configuration, and right at the top here where it says app license key, if you paste in that long alpha value there. So now let's go back to the View4 online again, and the next thing we're going to do is go to the target manager here. So targets are added into databases, so you're going to have to want one database for each of the projects you have, and a database can contain several different targets. So if you click on Add Database and create a new database for this project, again, I'm going to just call them AR Demo, and we're going to store it on the device. And here we have our new empty database, which we're going to add a target into. So there's different sorts of targets you can create depending on the sort of object that it's going to be placed on. So you can have sort of abstract 3D objects, cylinders, like if you want to do it on the side of a bottle of Coke or a wine bottle or something like that, cuboid. I'm just going to put a single image on here. So I'm going to select. Here we have. So I've got, this is the video file I'm going to play. This is the image file I'm going to replace onto my images. But let me insert the thumbnail from the video screenshot that I want to place. This is just a PNG file. Open that. The width of the image is useful when you're tracking multiple targets. It's going to give additional metadata to the program to know roughly how large to expect the relative sizes of different image targets to be, which is going to help in tracking. In Unity, 1 unit is normally 1 meter. So this photograph is about 15 centimeters wide in real life. So the width is going to be 0.15. And I'll just call it Kennedy, just so I can distinguish that target from any others I might have in this database. So that's my first image target. And if you click on that, you'll see it's given a rating as to how good target the application that's going to be. And what it's done, and this is why you use the online service, if you go into that and click Show Features, you'll see it's identified certain distinguishing features. A lot of the facial features have actually been marked out here, and also where there's high contrast, like at the edge of the hairline into the background. And so if you have a nice high contrast picture like this, that's going to make a good image target to use. And this has got 4 stars, which is pretty good as an image target. Okay. go back to the database, and we'll repeat that process again for the other target, which is going to be the playing card. So we'll do add target again. It's going to be a single image. Just browse to that, and it's going to be the Queen of Spades we'll use this time. And the width of this, I think a playing card is about 6 centimeters wide, so we'll go 0.06 and add that to the database as well. Okay, and that's got even better, that's got 5-star rating. So we've got 2 good image targets in our database. Next thing I'm going to do is to click to download that database into Unity Editor, download it. And when you get the option here, we're going to open it with Unity Editor. And here we go, and we get the import Unity package, so just click import there. So now what we find is when we go back to the image target, whereas before we were limited to using the inbuilt database of this Vuforia Mars images, we'll now have our new AR demo library as well, which we've just created online and downloaded. And you'll see I've got the choice of the Queen of Spades or my Kennedy image. So let's create the Kennedy one first of all. So here's my image target, and the next thing we need to do is to say, okay, well, when this image is recognized by the AR camera, what information or graphic do we want to be superimposed on the top? For this one, it's going to be a video image. So I'll right click on the image target and go to 3D object and place a quad in. A quad is like a simple 3D surface defined just by 4 points in the corners. You can see normally they're sort of vertical quads rather than horizontal. So we're going to just rotate that around the x-axis by 90 degrees. That will make it line up with the photo. And also it's a square at the moment. It's one unit in size in every dimension. So we're just going to scale the y-axis down a little bit to make it match the underlying photo. So I think 0.75, that should be about right. Okay, so we've got a blank quad, and that quad is what's going to display our video image now. So still with the quad selected in the hierarchy, I'm going to go to add component. And if you just type in video in this box here, you'll get a list of available components. And one of them is called video player. So we'll go for that one. And now, of course, we need the actual video clip that we're going to attach to that quad. So the best way to insert assets into Unity itself is to simply drag them into the project assets window, which is over here. So I have my my Windows folder that's just got my assets in it here, and this is an MP4 video that I want to attach the image to, so I'm going to just drag that into that window there. And in fact, while I'm here, I'll also drag in the King of Diamonds, which I'm going to use as the image replacement on my playing card later. So just to check that's imported all right, if you click on that here and then click the play button in the inspector, you'll see the video playing thumbnail here. So we know that that's imported okay. And we're now going to assign that to the video player component that we put on the quad. So we'll click quad and scroll down a little bit to where the video player was that we just added and drag that clip into the video clip slot there. Okay. We can keep all the other settings the same for now, and that is our first image target set up. So we just need to do a little bit of more configuration. You'll see we've got a message at the bottom. You must load and activate the database containing the target in Vuforia configuration. So we imported a tag, an image target, from our new database. Now we just need to activate that in the Unity program as well. So click on the AR camera, then go to Open Vuforia configuration, and we want to load the AR demo database and also activate it. So we'll click these two buttons here. We don't need to load the sample database that came with Vuforia anymore because we're not using any of those assets, so we can actually deactivate those, and that will save a little bit of CPU time because it won't be checking against those image targets in the image, so that'll actually make it a little bit more efficient. And that should be all that is required to actually preview the program. So if you now come up to the top and click the play button, and you'll see the output of your webcam image, which is over there. If you now hold up your image target, you'll see that it's been recognized and the video player component is playing that video over the quad that's been placed on the image target. Okay. So now let's do add another image target for the playing card as well. So it's going to be a similar process. We're going to go back to game object again, view for and then image. So that's exactly the same as we added our video. And I'm just going to take hold of this handle here and drag this across to the side slightly so we can see it slightly clearer. Again, by default, it's loaded up with this astronaut built-in image, but we're going to change that. So we're going to go to database, AR demo, and select the Queen of Spades, which is the default there. And then exactly as before, we're going to now add the additional content that we want to be displayed when that image target is recognized. So we'll right click on image target, and again we'll just make it a simple quad. You can make more complex 3D models and things appear on top of an image target if you want, but for now we'll just replace it with a quad and rotate it by 90 degrees. And this time we're just going to shrink the X scale down a little bit just to make it line up with the edges of the card, which is going to be about there. Now for this one, rather than inserting the video player component, what we're going to do is actually colour or add a texture onto the material of that quad itself. So what we're going to do is in the assets window down the bottom here, if you right click, create material, and we'll call this new material King of Diamonds. And then we're going to drag the texture, the image of the King of Diamonds, into the albedo slot of that material. And then we're going to drag the material. So you can see it's now displaying the material preview here, which shows our King of Diamonds texture mapped onto a sphere. We're now going to drag that texture onto the quad there. If I zoom in a little bit here, so you'll see now, you can see the Queen of Spades, which is the image target, and the King of Diamonds, which is going to be the quad that is displayed when the image target is recognized, kind of superimposed on each other. Now the only other thing we need to do, we just need to go back to the view for configuration again. So click on the AR camera once more, and then open configuration, because by default View4 will only track one image target at once. So to increase that, we're just going to increase this value here to 2 and this value here to 2 as well. And now we can test our two image targets together. So if you click the play button once more and just wait for my webcam to fire up. Here we go. So now we have our video image target there, which is playing. And if I also at the same time hold up my playing card target, you'll see that I can get them being tracked simultaneously at the same time. So that shows you the application working in the Unity editor. The next thing is to really look at how you'd then go about deploying that onto a device itself. Now the process for this is going to be slightly different depending on whether you're using an iPad or an iPhone or an Android device or something else. So I can only sort of really show you the process which I used at the beginning, which is onto an Android phone. But it's largely similar to whatever device you end up using. So the first thing we're going to do is to actually save the scene that we've created so far. So we'll just do File, Save Scene As, and then we'll just call it AR Demo. I'll save that. Now, once you've saved the scene, we're going to go to File, Build Settings, and we'll add the open scene. So the scene we've just saved, we're going to add it to the list of scenes that we're going to include in this build. A build can actually contain several scenes, which you can think of as sort of the levels of a game, but for this particular application we're only going to have one. Now, in this panel here, you'll see a list of all the supported platforms that you can build for, depending on which platforms you selected when you first installed Unity. So I'm going to build it for Android, so I'm going to click on Android here, and then I'm going to click on the Switch Platform button. And what that's going to do is that's going to go through all the assets that we've imported and used so far, and that's going to recompile them as necessary so that they'll work on an Android platform. And when that's completed, you'll notice the top of the title bar here now says that it's running on Android rather than PC. And we're just going to change a couple of the settings for that Android device as well. So click on Player Settings, and that will load this panel in the inspector here, which are settings specific to the build target that we've chosen at the moment. So there's a couple of things you're going to need to change and a couple of things you might want to change. So the first thing I'm going to do is expand this section at the bottom that says XR settings, and we're going to enable Vuforia Augmented Reality. In the next setting up, we're going to go into the other settings section, and where it says package name, we need to assign a unique name that's going to identify this on the Android system, and this needs to be in the format com and then a company name or an individual name, and then a dot, and then the name of this particular program. So that's the standard format used for identification on Android systems. We're also going to change this setting here. So where it says API compatibility level, we're going to change that from .NET 2.0 subset to .NET 2.0. And you just need to make sure that these boxes here, Android TV compatibility and Android game, are unchecked, because it won't work if you're trying to deploy with Android TV settings in your Android build. So we'll leave those off. And finally, you might want to change the name up here, because this will be how the application appears in your Android menu on your device. And you can drag an icon in here if you want to, but you don't actually have to. That's kind of an aesthetic thing. And when you've done all that and you're ready to go, you can simply click the build button here in the build settings, and this will prompt you for a name to call the APK package. So as ever, we're just going to go for AR demo, not very imaginative, and click save. Now you may have to install the Android SDK on your computer, but there are instructions on the Unity website about how to do that. This may take a couple of minutes to actually do the compilation. And you'll see here, this is the APK file that build process has just created. It's quite large because it's got that video embedded in it. And what you can now do is simply drag this onto your Android device as normal, and open it, and that will install the application onto your tablet or your mobile phone, and then you can simply run it from there. So there you have it. That's how you can create your own augmented reality app running on a mobile phone or a tablet. Now, it should be said that the software that I've shown you, Unity and Vuforia, is actually capable of much, much more than I've been able to show you in this tutorial. So if you're interested in doing more in that kind of area of virtual software kind of puzzles, then please do check out more of what they're capable of. Most of the videos I've been doing up to now have been focused more on the electronics hardware side of things, using Arduinos and electronic components. So hopefully you found this interesting, though, looking more at the software side of things. As always, if you've got any questions, or if you'd like me to do more topics like this in the future, then please let me know in the comments below. And thanks very much for watching.